Welcome back. Today we have two Mercedes modules, so let's see what's going on with these. These are the two modules that have been sent to me. This one, I believe, is a relay flasher module. So this one should be doing indicators. There does seem to be a hell of a lot of pins on there for doing indicators. Maybe there's some other bits and pieces in there. And then this one is a seat module. But this is what we'll get started on first. This is our relay module. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is the kind of thing where we're going to see some broken solder joints. First thing we need to do is get into it. So looking at this, I think that is going to be our seam, and then these, hopefully that tab there will fold back and this thing will push in. That all seems continuous around here. That's all continuous plastic, so it's not going to come out this way. Looks like it's got to come out from the back. Well, it ain't easy, but I've got it started by rocking a blade, a rusty blade, into that corner, and we're starting to cut our way in. Once I got that opened up a little bit, managed to get a screwdriver in, and then get a little bit of levering on that and start to see some of the stuff inside. That's the lid off, and yeah, you can see the circuit board in there, so careful, I suppose, to be honest. You don't need to be too careful about that, but careful, I suppose, how you're doing your levering at least. Remember, when you're levering, lever that way, so you are pushing this out, as if you're going to lever that way, you're going to chew up those ribbon cables. So now we've got to get him out of there, and I imagine that's going to be tabs around this, so I think I'm going to have to spread this out, and then the whole lot should push out through the back. Not a fun job, but we are out. So yes, it will push out through there. So one thing is this dropped out. I think maybe that's just a bit of a plastic tab. We'll look into it. But I have spotted a burnt trace already sitting just along there. So there is one issue at least. So let's see if we can open him up any further and see what else is going on inside of this. So once again, we have these hybrid modules. Mercedes used to love them back in the day. But opening it up, I can then see we have another burnt trace there running right in the middle across the screen. So that at least is two traces to repair. And then there might still be some other bits going on around there. So probably need to do a fair bit of inspection before I just note down it's just those things. But certainly a couple of traces, but easy enough to repair. I've got the bits and pieces, get some wire into there, and maybe that might be all our issue. There is one burnt trace. There's another one there as well. That one there I can see is going around that leg. But we also have something else going on. This meter is on diode check, and this is what you normally expect. One little beep and it tells me the diode drop. One little beep, diode drop. These ones. Sorry, there we go. Make sure we're touching the right thing. They're working fine, but shorts, shorts, shorts. That one's okay. That one's shorted. So we have something else that's shorted on this board, and even with some of these traces going away and splitting, the short is still there. My prime suspect so far is going to be this big diode there, as he is looking fairly smoky on that edge. And also when we flip him over, he was these two, and that one there does look it's melted some of the solder. So I have a feeling that that might be the guy that's gone. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take him out and see if our short clears up. Our big diode is out. We're on beep. So let's see, did we get the right one? Oh, yes. Let's flip him round. Okay, so I think that was our guy. Let's have a look now on these. So this one was fine. This one was shorted. Oh. We still have another short and another diode gone somewhere. So this one, he was fine. These four were fine. That one, that one, that one, that one. How about these two? There's still another short in there somewhere. Well, with a bit of thinking, I might have made a mistake. So, although we did have our big diode being shorted, we might actually not have a short on the other ones, or at least not a short the way they should be. As sometimes on relays you will have a flyback diode which is over the coil, and the idea of it is to circulate the current from when you switch the coil off on a relay. The magnetic field collapses, that produces a spike, and you then put a flyback diode which sends the current back through the coil till it dissipates rather than spiking it out into something else. And those, when you have those diodes are on either side of a coil. So that means when you're checking one of those diodes, you would always find it looking like a short, because on either side of this it goes off to the coil in a relay and they will be connected anyway. So here's the thing, was that just a lucky chance that I found what I thought was a shorted diode, and then I found that that one actually was shorted? Or could it be something else? But yeah, with a flyback diode, I might be barking up the wrong tree. Well, I think we are out of options, and we're going to have to take off these relays. So I see in here what looks to be another burnt trace. So I would certainly need working space around there. Now, looking on about flyback diodes, I think that might be the flyback diode sitting directly underneath there. That would kind of make sense, to be honest, as these ones are quite a bit of a distance away from the relays, and you would want to keep them fairly close. And underneath all of these, I do see extra little components, including a diode. So I'm going to think my plan now is to take off these relays, and then we'll see what's going to happen. That's certainly going to rule out any flyback on the coils, but I think maybe one of those diodes under there might be part of the issue as well. But certainly we've got a trace to repair there, so there's no other way around it. We're going to need the space, and that's not going to be fun, as that's going to wick a lot of heat in. We've only got 4 contacts on each one, 2 here, 2 on the other side, but that is going to suck up a lot of heat, and that's going to be a hard job to unsolder. Well, after quite a battle, we've got those relays out. So the first thing that I was looking at before was this trace, and I can see he has got hot, and it's showing some of the copper. He is actually continuous, but a good idea anyway, as this trace underneath the first one, he has completely blown. But the interesting thing is, after having the coils out the way and finding a load of traces that have blown, we still have a short. And it's not going to be coil, the flyback diode on the coil. So here, for example, these large 4 pins, that is one of the relays. These here are the coil connections, and this one here is the flyback diode for that. Our middle 2 coils, flyback diode for that coil, and our final relay. There's our 4 large pins for him, the 2 coil ones, and that there is the flyback diode for that one. But we are still getting shorts on some of these other ones. This little pack here, I don't know, that almost looks like it's a bridge rectifier or something. We have 4 diodes in opposing directions. That one was okay. I think that one was showing as shorted. I think some of these were showing as shorted. We still have something else on the board. Maybe it is one of these diodes. I might need to start pulling off diodes one by one now and see if I can track it down to being any particular one. Obviously, we have already had a diode go, as this fella, this big fella, he's certainly gone. So maybe there are some more dead diodes in here. So finally, a bit of good news. So now we have this and all our diodes off. Our shorts are gone over all of, well, that way around. Those two are connected, but our shorts have gone on these diode pads. So we did have an issue with the diode, and we in fact had an issue with all of these. So these 4 here are still working fine, but all of these other ones, they're all shorted, and so on. Anyway, I'm going to need to get a bunch of new diodes of those, one of these guys, and also we'll need to do the trace repairs. So let's get cracking on repairing the traces next. So starting on this side, we do have 3 to do. So this one, which goes over here, and again that one is this pad through, and I'm going to link him into that pad. This one here, again, completely gone. That pad over to that pad. And I will redo that one, as he has heated up quite a bit, and there's probably going to be not too much left in there. So that's what we need to do on this side. I have checked those diodes as well. They're all good. So before I get the relays back, this is what I'm going to do on this side, is those 3 traces. The old traces have been pulled off now, and I've got a little bit of copper cleaned up over here and over here for this trace. This continuous one, again the copper's there, but I'm going to run another wire over the top, and then this one as well. Bit of copper here, bit of copper there, and I'm going to run link wires then over the top. So for the link wires that I'm going to be doing this one, I do have some of this jumper wire, which is just a very thin enameled copper wire, and you can use that for repairing traces. But if you haven't got that, where else can you find this wire? Indeed, just made a fantastic entrance there, stage right. I was going to say relays. If you have an old relay, you can bust him open, and the relay winding coil is that same kind of enameled copper wire. So rather than buying yourself a reel of this, and look at that, there's already a fair bit of that gone, you can just grab yourself an old relay and look at the amount of wire on there. You'll have wire on there for days. I got our wire, you can barely see him, how small he is. First little connection is soldered on just there, and now to route him correctly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that every now and again with a bit of solder resist. So I have a very small dab of solder resist, and what I'm going to do is put just a dab of there, use that as a glue to hold it into that position, move it on to the next place I'm going to make a corner, and then, you know, sort of twist it again. That way at least it's held at every point that I'm making it. Obviously you can solder it at your metal connection when you have copper, but when you're running on where there's no traces left, if you're trying to pull the wire tight, it's obviously going to go the shortest distance. So going to use a little bit of that solder resist now to dab it and glue it in place as I trace it through our positions. And that is it, pretty much done. So you can see I was a little bit better with my steering on this one. I got him following just right. Need to add a little bit of solder resist on the end. This one, our big long one, continues through to there. And our final little one, he just has a wire over the top. So no real need to stick on the solder resist as I'm fitting it. That is mainly just for getting the direction right. But in this case, there's going to be a bit of solder resist over the top anyway, just to protect it. But that is it for this side. Bit of solder resist, and we can start sticking components back. So we are about done for now. I have this trace here done, so he will then sort out that one there that was gone. This one here, though, we're going to have to wait, as those two holes, that's where that big diode was. I'm going to want to get one of those diodes next, get him in there, and then I can sort out that trace afterwards. And also I need, obviously, a whole bunch of diodes for those other positions as well. Let's get started on the rebuild now of this. So I have our diode set up. We have 4 that were good and 5 that were bad. I have a bunch of new diodes now which are on the same sort of specs. They aren't exactly matching. Again, we've only got a little diode code on these, but I know roughly what they are. And because all of the diodes are exactly the same spec, I believe what they've done is they've just got a big massive box full of suitable diodes that are used for everything. None of these are particularly fine-tuned to anything. So to get them back on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through on these various pads and just clean up one of each one of these sets. And what I'm going to do then is stick our diode on using that blob of solder that we have left on the other side. So that's a few of them ready. Now grab some tweezers. I'm going to grab one of my good diodes. That is the genuine one. In fact, let me swap hands. In fact, I have kind of done it a little bit awkward. I should have really done it the other way round. But let me see if I can do this with my other hand. So this will be our first one. I've got a picture of it originally of how it was, so I can get the polarity right. And if I manage to get that in and heat both the pad and the tab, we might be on. That isn't the best angle, but what I'll do is I'll go around now and I'll square that up and I'll get the rest of them on. Onto the final straight now, as I've gathered up all of the bits. So our big diode is in. You can see him there with our ST logo. That's a TVS, a transient voltage suppression diode. And we also have all of our little diodes on. Now that that big diode is on, he is in covering over those two pads, and I've still got to repair that trace. And this is what I'm going to do with, if I can get him to focus. There we go. He is going to sit directly over there, and then that should link up across this trace round onto that leg and off then onto that pad. So I'm going to try a little bit of fancy footwork and see if I can get him on. And we are done. So I've got our link wire soldered on now. I've got him looping around that diode leg. Obviously we have it clockwise as we're in the northern hemisphere. Anybody down south, remember your electricity goes a different direction to ours. But all we need to do is get our mechanic solder resist on there. I don't know if you've ever seen a mechanic do any soldering, but it's not going to be a pretty sight. And then this needs a bit of curing with a disco UV light, and we're done. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in part 2, where we finish off the rest of these stuff and we have a look at that seat module.